All right, so we're diving deep into Mendoza, Argentina, wine country.
The heart of it.
It's exciting. You sent over this amazing guidebook excerpt,
Yeah.
and it's all in Spanish.
All in Spanish, yeah.
That's really cool. It makes it feel even more authentic, but we're going beyond just like the basic overview, right?
Right.
We're digging into the details, those unexpected facts, and like the things that truly make Mendoza stand out
Yeah.
in the world of wine.
I think one of the most captivating things about Mendoza is how it breaks the mold of like your typical wine region.
Okay.
You know, it's this really amazing convergence of dramatic geography, rich history, and just pure human passion.
Yeah.
And all that goes into these wines that are sought after all around the world.
Okay, I'm already hooked.
Yeah,
and
right.
we're talking vineyards set against the backdrop of the Andes Mountains, right?
Absolutely.
That alone is pretty incredible.
It is. But those mountains are so much more than just a beautiful view.
Okay.
They're the real architects of Mendoza's unique terroir. They completely shape the climate
Yeah.
and ultimately, you know, the character of the wines themselves.
Right.
So picture this. A desert landscape, intense sunshine. But then, as the sun sets behind these huge peaks, the altitude brings in these surprisingly cool nights.
Yeah, I've heard winemakers talk about that diurnal range or whatever.
Exactly.
But break that down for me.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean for the grapes and then for the wine that we drink?
Yeah, it's all about balance.
Okay.
That shift between hot days and cool nights is like nature's way of slowing things down. So the ripening process slows down. This allows the grapes to get really, really complex.
Okay.
So you have this beautiful balanced acidity and concentrated flavors
Right.
that you just wouldn't find in a region that doesn't have these really drastic temperature swings.
Interesting.
To give you an idea, in Mendoza, that diurnal range can be up to 40 degrees Fahrenheit,
Wow.
which is a huge difference compared to a lot of other wine regions.
That is a big swing. It's almost like the Andes are playing this protective role over the grapes,
It is, yeah.
making sure they get all that sun, but they don't get too ripe and, out of balance.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay, cool.
And it's not just the temperature. You have to think about the water, too.
Okay.
You have the purest meltwater coming down from those Andean glaciers.
Wow.
It nourishes those vines, and then it gives this distinct minerality to the wines.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you about, because
Yeah.
you hear people talk about minerality, but what does that actually mean?
It's a word that's thrown around a lot,
Yeah.
but here it's really tangible.
Okay.
We're talking specific mineral profiles,
Yeah.
things like calcium and potassium.
Right.
And you can actually taste it sometimes,
Huh.
like as a subtle chalkiness or a little bit of salinity on your palate.
Interesting. It's like another layer of complexity that I didn't even realize was there.
Yeah.
But hold on, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, this guidebook mentions that Mendoza's history with wine goes back centuries.
It does, yeah.
I mean, starting with the Spanish colonists back in the 1500s.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's amazing to look back at those roots.
Yeah.
So the Jesuit missionaries, they arrive in the 16th century. That was a real turning point.
Okay.
They brought European vines, of course, but they went beyond that.
Okay.
They actually shared that viticultural knowledge with the indigenous people who were already there.
So they taught them how to actually grow the grapes.
Exactly.
Not just like, here's some vines, good luck.
Yeah, they taught them pruning techniques, how to trellis the vines, how to choose the best spots for the vineyard.
So it's like this exchange of knowledge and culture.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
And that continued when more European immigrants came in the 19th century.
Right.
Every wave brought their own traditions and expertise. And that all comes together to create the winemaking culture you see in Mendoza today.
It's amazing how history shapes a place, and it's become this global wine powerhouse.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, when I think Argentina, one grape comes to mind, Malbec.
Of course.
It's like synonymous with the country.
It is.
So what is it about Mendoza that makes it such a perfect home for that particular grape?
It's all about that dance between climate and soil.
Right.
Malbec, it's originally French, right?
Yeah.
But it really found its true home in the alluvial soils of Mendoza.
Oh.
These are well-drained, nutrient-rich soils. They give it that perfect foundation.
All right.
And then you add the unique climate-intense sun, those cool nights we talked about, that pure Andean water. It's the ideal recipe for Malbec to really thrive.
So it's not just a good match. It's like destiny brought Malbec there.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, I'm sold. But paint a picture for me. When I take a sip of Argentinian Malbec, What am I experiencing?
Okay, so imagine a wine that's so deeply colored, so inky.
Mm-hmm.
It hints at the intensity that's about to come. Then you bring that glass to your nose, and it's an explosion of ripe red and black fruits. Plums, blackberries, cherries. It's like you've walked into a sun-drenched orchard.
That sounds delicious.
It is. And then, depending on how the winemaker aged it, there might be these layers of spice, dark chocolate, even a hint of vanilla from those oak barrels.
Okay, you're making me thirsty. But
Yeah.
what about the structure?
Yeah.
Like, we know Malbec is full-bodied,
Mhm.
but what makes it so special in terms of how it feels in your mouth?
Okay, well, let's talk tannins.
Oh, gosh, I was afraid you were going to say that.
I know those wine terms can be a bit intimidating,
They can?
but tannins are what give you that drying sensation, like when you drink black tea.
Yeah.
And in a well-made Malbec, those tannins are going to be really smooth and integrated. They give that backbone to the wine.
Gotcha.
And then you have the acidity, which is that bright, refreshing quality
Right.
that keeps the wine lively and balanced. Argentinian Malbecs tend to have this really harmonious balance of those smooth tannins and that vibrant acidity.
So that's why it goes with so many different foods.
Exactly, and why it's so enjoyable to drink.
All right, you officially convinced me. I need a glass ASAP. But, I used to think Mendoza was all about Malbec.
Yeah,
But this guidebook, it's got all these different regions and other grapes.
it does.
There's clearly so much more to discover.
Absolutely.
It's like a whole map of different flavors.
You hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
Mendoza isn't just one thing.
Right.
It's this tapestry of diverse terroirs,
Yeah,
each with its own personality.
I like that.
So let's start with a region that's considered the birthplace of Argentinian Malbec, Luján de Cuyo.
Luján de Cuyo. I mean, even the name sounds elegant.
It does.
What makes this region so special for Malbec?
Well, it has prestigious history. And when you look at the specifics of the climate and soil, it's easy to understand why it produces such exceptional wines. Think dry, sunny days for those grapes to ripen perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Then, those cool nights that we talked about, which help preserve acidity and freshness,
Okay, yeah.
and the soil,
Mm.
alluvial, well-drained. It's enriched with potassium and boron.
Okay.
And all of that contributes to the elegance and concentration of the wines.
Right.
A great example is Bodega a Cheval Fair.
Mm-hmm.
They make this wine called Finca Altamira Malbec.
Okay.
It really showcases what Luján de Cuyo can do.
Mm.
Power and incredible nuance.
Okay, now I really am picturing myself walking through those vineyards with a glass of Malbec.
It's a beautiful place.
But wait a minute. This guidebook says Luján de Cuyo isn't just your classic Malbec.
That's right.
There's rosés and
Yeah.
even sparkling wines from Malbec.
Yeah, Luján de Cuyo's versatility is pretty amazing. It's not just a red wine haven.
I would never have guessed that.
You can find these really delicate Malbec rosés and
Mhm.
even sparkling wines, including some delicious sparkling rosés made from Malbec.
Oh.
Chandon, Argentina, for example, they're doing some innovative things with sparkling in Luján de Cuyo.
Wow, a sparkling Malbec rosé. That's a combo I never would have imagined.
It's unique.
I have to try that. Have you ever had a sparkling Malbec?
I have, actually. I recently had the chance to try.
Okay, tell me everything. Was it as good as it sounds?
Well, it was really something else I was surprised by.
Oh, okay. So we explored the elegance of Luján de Cuyo,
Yeah.
but our Mendoza adventure continues.
It does?
This guidebook highlights another region that sounds equally fascinating, Maipú.
Hmm.
It's described as this place where tradition and innovation collide,
Yeah.
which really piques my interest.
Maipú is this really captivating blend of old world charm and modern vision.
I like that.
It's a region where you can find wineries that have been crafting wine for centuries,
Wow.
like Bodega La Rural,
Mm-hmm.
founded way back in 1885,
That's a long time.
standing side by side with these cutting-edge wineries that are really pushing the boundaries.
So it's like the old guard and the new guard are working together.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool. So we're not just talking Malbec here.
Right.
What other grapes are thriving in this mix of winemaking styles?
That's the beauty of Maipú.
Okay.
It's the diversity.
Mm-hmm.
While Malbec definitely has a strong presence,
Yeah.
you'll also find a wide range of other varietals that do really well there. Cabernet Sauvignon,
Okay.
Merlot,
Mm-hmm.
even Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. They all find a home in Maipú's diverse terroir.
You mentioned wineries that are pushing boundaries.
Right.
Can you give me an example of what that actually looks like in Maipú?
A prime example is Familia Zuccardi.
Okay.
They've gained a lot of recognition internationally.
Yeah.
not only for their exceptional wines, but for their innovative approach to winemaking
Uh-huh.
and even their architecture.
Oh,
Yeah, their
wow.
winery is really something to see.
Okay.
It blends seamlessly into the landscape, while also showcasing cutting-edge technology and a deep respect for tradition.
It's amazing how wine can be this intersection of, like, art and science and history.
Yeah.
It's making me want to book a flight to Mendoza right now.
You should.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
Right.
we have one more key region to explore,
Yes.
Valle de Uco.
Ah.
This guidebook describes it as this place with dramatic landscapes and high-altitude wines.
It is.
It sounds pretty epic.
Valle de Uco is truly a showstopper.
Okay.
Imagine vineyards perched high up in the Andes,
Wow.
where the air is thinner,
Okay.
the sunlight is more intense, the soils are rocky and unforgiving.
So not easy to grow grapes up there.
No, not at all.
That sounds tough.
This is where the vines really have to struggle to survive, and that struggle actually translates into wines of exceptional concentration and intensity.
So they have to work harder, and that makes them better.
Exactly.
I get it.
So I'm familiar with the concept of high-altitude wines,
Yeah.
but I've always wondered, why does altitude actually matter so much? It all boils down to the stress,
Okay.
the thinner air,
Mm-hmm.
the intense sunlight,
Right?
the poor rocky soils.
Yeah.
All of that forces the vines to put all their energy into just surviving.
Okay.
And that leads to smaller berries with more concentrated flavors and aromas.
So it's kind of like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but for wine.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that analogy. A great example of what Valle de Uco can achieve is Bodega Salentine.
Oh, they're fantastic.
They have vineyards in San Pablo, right?
Yes. San Pablo is a sub-region known for its really mineral-driven wines.
I see.
They have this Malbec called Single Vineyard Los Nogales,
Okay.
and it just captures the complexity and the nuance of that high-altitude terroir.
Wow, adding that to my list of wines to try. Okay, so we've covered what you called the big three of Mendoza wine regions.
We have.
Lujan de Cuyo, Maipú, and Valle de Uco.
Right.
But this guidebook mentions all these other regions waiting to be discovered, like a whole constellation of them.
Exactly. Mendoza's tapestry of terroirs extends way beyond the big three.
So what else is out there?
Well, you have San Rafael, further south,
Okay.
known for its full-bodied Bonarda and peppery Syrah wines.
Ooh, I love Sarah.
Then there's East Mendoza, kind of a rising star for Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot,
Interesting.
where that continental climate with its wide diurnal range really shines.
Right, we talked about that.
And then, let's not forget South Mendoza, a cooler region
Okay.
that's becoming known for its crisp Chardonnays and vibrant Sauvignon Blancs.
Okay, I'm seeing a theme here.
What's that?
Mendoza's wine scene is incredibly diverse.
It really is.
It's like a choose-your-own-adventure for wine lovers.
I love that analogy.
But we can't forget that this deep dive isn't just about grapes and tannins and all that.
True.
There's a whole other side to Mendoza, right? The
It is.
experience, the
Right.
culture,
Mm.
the adventure beyond the vineyards.
To fully appreciate Mendoza's wines, you have to immerse yourself in its cultural and natural richness.
Okay, I like that idea. And what better place to start than with the breathtaking presence of Aconcagua,
Ah,
the
yes.
highest peak in the Americas?
It looms over the region like a watchful guardian.
It's more than just a mountain, though, right?
It is.
It's almost like there's this sense of reverence surrounding it.
Exactly. For the indigenous Huarpe people, Aconcagua was considered a sacred mountain,
Wow,
a place of profound spiritual significance.
I can see that.
Even today, as you stand in its shadow, you can feel that reverence, that connection to something ancient and powerful. I remember the first time I visited Aconcagua.
Oh, tell me about it. I can only imagine what it feels like to be in the presence of such grandeur.
Well, it was a crisp morning, and as the sun rose, it cast this golden light on the peak.
Okay, I'm getting goosebumps just listening to you describe it.
It's quite a sight.
Clearly, Aconcagua is an experience in itself.
It is.
But what about Mendoza City? What's the vibe there?
Mendoza City is this charming blend of old-world charm and modern vibrancy.
Oh.
Imagine strolling down tree-lined streets, discovering hidden plazas, admiring the colonial architecture, and just soaking up that lively atmosphere.
Sounds delightful. Any must-see spots you'd recommend?
Well, Plaza Independencia is the heart of the city.
Okay.
It's a bustling hub surrounded by beautiful buildings.
Cool.
And if you're looking for some tranquility, you can't miss Parque General San Martin.
Okay.
It's this sprawling urban oasis,
Huh.
perfect for a leisurely afternoon stroll.
Nice.
There's a rose garden, a lake, even a zoo.
Okay, so we've got culture and relaxation covered.
We do.
But this guidebook also mentions some more adventurous activities in Mendoza.
Oh, yeah.
What are we talking about here?
Mendoza has something for every adventure enthusiast.
Okay, like what?
Imagine hiking through the Andes with these breathtaking vistas unfolding before you.
Wow.
Or horseback riding through vineyards and olive groves.
That sounds amazing.
The scent of nature filling the air.
Yeah.
If you're looking for an adrenaline rush, you can go whitewater rafting on the Mendoza or actual rivers.
Cool.
And for those who want a more relaxed pace, there are hot springs nestled in these incredible natural settings like the Termisticachuta.
I've heard of those.
They're amazing.
It sounds like there's no shortage of ways to experience Mendoza's natural beauty.
Not at all.
But before we move on, I have a confession to make.
Okay.
I'm a little intimidated by the whole wine tasting process.
Really?
Yeah, where do I even begin?
You know, I used to feel the same way.
Did you?
But the beauty of wine tasting is that there are no right or wrong answers.
Okay, that's good to hear.
It's all about exploring, discovering what you enjoy, and just training your senses to appreciate all the nuances of wine.
So no pressure then.
No pressure at all.
Are there any, tips or steps I can follow to really make the most of a tasting?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
First, engage your sense of sight.
Mm-hmm.
Observe the wine's color and clarity.
Okay.
Is it a deep ruby red or a pale golden hue?
Got it.
Then gently swirl the wine in your glass to release its aromas. Take a deep inhale and ask yourself, what do I smell?
Mm-hmm.
Do I get fruits, flowers, spices, earthy notes?
Okay, so we're using sight and smell.
Yes.
What about taste?
All right, here comes the fun part.
Okay.
Take a sip of the wine and let it coat your palate.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to the texture.
Okay.
Is it smooth, velvety, maybe a bit grippy from the tannins?
Right.
Notice the acidity.
Okay.
Does it make your mouth water?
Yeah.
And finally, focus on the flavors.
Mm.
What do you perceive?
Okay.
How long does the flavor linger after you swallow? That's what we call the finish.
That's making me want to sign up for a wine tasting class.
Do it.
But before we get too carried away,
Right.
we have to address the all-important food pairing.
Of course.
What are some classic Argentinian dishes that really go well with those Mendoza wines?
Well, we've already talked about empanadas, those savory little pockets of flavor,
Yeah.
and asado, the quintessential Argentinian barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another dish that deserves a spotlight. Locro. It's this hearty stew
Okay.
made with corn, beans, and meat,
That's good.
often slow-cooked over an open fire.
Wow.
The cold weather staple.
I bet.
And it pairs beautifully with a robust Cabernet Sauvignon or a spicy Syrah.
Ooh, I could go for that. What about lighter dishes like salads?
Yeah.
What wines would you suggest for those?
For salads, I'd go for a crisp Sauvignon Blanc
Okay.
with its zesty acidity and refreshing citrus notes.
Makes sense.
Or you could try a Torrontés.
Okay.
It's Argentina's signature white grape,
I've heard of it.
known for its fragrant floral aromas and bright fruitiness.
That sounds good too. This is making me so hungry.
Me too.
But before we dive headfirst into a culinary adventure,
Right.
let's take a step back and talk big picture.
Right.
What are some of the key takeaways from our exploration of Mendoza so far?
Well, I think first and foremost, Mendoza is a region of incredible diversity.
Yeah.
From its dramatic landscapes to its vast array of wines, there's truly something there to captivate every wine lover.
That's like a wine lover's paradise.
It is.
And secondly, Mendoza is a region that honors its rich history and traditions while also embracing innovation and pushing those boundaries of winemaking.
Absolutely.
It's like the perfect blend of old world charm and new world dynamism.
I like that.
And finally, Mendoza is a region that's fueled by passion.
It is.
A passion for the land.
Yes.
For the craft of winemaking
Yeah.
and for sharing that passion with the world.
It shows.
It's one of those places that gets under your skin and makes you want to go back for more.
Yeah.
And speaking of coming back for more, in our final segment, we're going to delve into the heart of Mendoza's winemaking process.
I can't wait.
Get ready to uncork some serious knowledge about viticulture and vinification.
It's going to be fun.
All right, so time to get our hands dirty,
Let's do it.
metaphorically speaking, of course,
Of course.
and really dive into how those amazing Mendoza wines are made.
Sounds good.
Like the step-by-step. Let's start at the very beginning
Right.
with viticulture.
So viticulture, that's the science and art of growing grapes.
Right.
It's the foundation of everything.
The most important part.
It is.
And, we've been talking about Mendoza's unique terroir.
Yeah.
Well, viticulture is all about understanding that and then, maximizing its potential.
Absolutely.
So it's not just planting vines and hoping for the best.
No, not at all.
There's real skill involved.
There is. It starts with choosing the right grape varieties for the specific climate and soil.
Okay.
And then there's a whole year of work. Pruning, irrigation, managing pests and diseases.
Wow, it's a lot.
You're constantly monitoring the vines, making sure they're growing and developing properly. It's a delicate balance.
I bet.
Between science and intuition, really understanding the land and the vines.
You know, when I think about viticulture in Mendoza, I always think about those ancient irrigation systems that this guidebook mentions.
They're amazing.
They're still playing a crucial role even today.
It's true. They use that Andean meltwater. So pure, so rich in minerals.
Yeah.
They channel it through this network of canals that have been around for centuries.
It's pretty incredible.
It is. It's a testament to those early winemakers. You know, they understood how important water management was in this arid region.
Right.
They were practicing sustainable viticulture long before it was a trendy term.
They were ahead of their time.
Yeah.
But, okay, let's fast forward.
Okay.
Grapes are grown, they're harvested. What happens next?
That's where the magic of vinification comes in.
Okay, the transformation from grape juice to wine.
Exactly. Vinification includes all those steps that turn freshly picked grapes into the wine we love to drink.
Okay.
So you start by crushing the grapes to extract the juice, which is called must.
Must, okay.
Some winemakers still use those traditional methods like foot treading.
Really?
But others use modern presses to gently extract that juice.
Interesting. So then we get to the fermentation process.
Yes.
That's where the alchemy happens.
Exactly.
I'm fascinated by fermentation.
Yeast is added to the must, and it starts working, converting those natural sugars into alcohol.
Okay.
This process also releases carbon dioxide, which is why you see all those bubbles in the fermentation tanks.
So wait, that's how we get bubbles in sparkling wine?
Not quite. Those bubbles in sparkling wine come from a second fermentation.
Oh, okay.
That happens right inside the bottle.
Huh, another layer of complexity.
It is, but we can save the details of sparkling wine production for another time.
All right, fair enough. Let's stick with the basics for now.
Sounds good.
So fermentation is done. What's next?
Usually the wine is transferred to oak barrels or stainless steel tanks for aging.
Okay.
This is where it really develops its character.
Okay.
The rough edges soften, tannins integrate, flavors harmonize.
You know, I've always wondered about oak aging.
Yeah.
Is that where those vanilla and spice notes come from?
Exactly. You got it.
Oh, okay.
Oak barrels are like a spice rack for winemakers.
Oh.
The type of oak, the age of the barrel, even how much it's toasted. All of that plays a role in the final flavors and aromas of the wine. It's a fascinating process.
Yeah, it really is.
Winemakers can fine-tune the character, adding layers of complexity and depth.
You know, I remember visiting a winery once, and they let me peek inside the barrel room.
Oh, nice.
It was incredible. The smell of oak, all those barrels, it was like stepping back in time.
It's a truly unique sensory experience.
It is. I remember my first visit to a cooperage in Mendoza where they actually make those barrels.
Oh, wow.
The craftsmanship, the skill, it's an art form.
It really is.
It's amazing how much care and attention goes into every step of making wine, from the vineyard all the way to the bottle.
Yeah.
Makes you appreciate that glass even more.
Absolutely. And when you think about all the things that come together in Mendoza, the terroir, the history, the passion of the winemakers, the traditions, it's no wonder those wines are so captivating.
Yeah, they really are. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing our listeners should keep in mind as they explore those Mendoza wines?
I think the most important thing is to approach each bottle with a sense of curiosity.
Okay.
Don't just taste the wine, experience it.
I like that.
Think about its journey from grape to glass. Think about the climate, the soil, the grape variety, the choices the winemaker made along the way.
Okay.
And most importantly, allow yourself to be transported to that sun-drenched landscape, to those ancient vineyards nestled in the Andes.
This deep dive has been a revelation.
I'm glad to hear that.
Honestly, I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of what Mendoza has to offer.
Oh, there's always more to explore in the world of wine.
There's one. But for now, let's raise a glass to the pursuit of knowledge.
Yes.
And to those incredible wines of Mendoza.
Cheers to that.
This has been fun.
It has. I've enjoyed it.
Until next time.
Cheers, that.